Hi, everybody. Jeremy Crow here. We're live on a live stream to celebrate 4,000 subscribers on this channel. So there's a lot of us. There's 4,000 of us, freaks and uh, all kinds of occultists, esotericists, Freemasons, Luciferians, Satanists, fringe culture enthusiasts, conspiracy theorists. We have paranormal investigators. We've got um, black magicians. We've got white witches. We've got voodoo practitioners. We've got Santorian priests and priestesses, and the full spectrum. We've got people who practice divination, necromancy, the whole gamut. Shout out your favorite esoteric topic or interest of study and practice. For me personally, lucid dreaming, that's got to be probably number one. I find that lucid dreaming it's just so transformative. That's the big thing about it, is that it's transformed the way that I see the world a lot. And it's funny because I was listening to a podcast by Joe Rogan recently, and he always goes on about how he thinks that everybody should take psychedelics. That's a solution for everything. And the reason that I kind of realized what he was talking about, why he has that idea. It's because of the transformative nature of experiencing altered states. And it really came clear in that most recent podcast. I can't remember which one. I think it might have been the one with the pilot from the famous Tic Tac UFO video, you could say. That unidentified aerial phenomenon, you could say. The one that people call the Tic Tac video. That guy was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and I think on that one, Joe had said something along the lines of, if people take DMT, I think is a specific one that he was talking about at the time, that you start to realize that, yeah, maybe you die, but we're probably going to live again, and that there's this eternal part of you. And that was something that he came to through his DMT experiences. And it's interesting because that's something that I've come to through lucid dreaming. And I feel like lucid dreaming, that's something available to everyone. That's something that you don't need access to a particular chemical. You don't need access to a particular plant. You don't need the proper space to perform the lucid dreaming in. It can be done literally anywhere that you can sleep, even sitting. You can even get into that state in a sitting position, like reclined, I guess you could say. But you can enter into a lucid dream directly from a waking state, and you can enter it from a dream, but it's available to anybody. And you can be, imprisoned in Antarctica. I don't even know if they have prisons there, but if they did, and if you were in one of those prisons in Antarctica and there was only one guard and they just walked around and made sure that you got your food and stuff, you could still do it. It's like the ultimate power to the people, in a sense, lucid dreaming, if you just tuned in. That's my favorite of all the esoteric and occult practices and areas of study and such. And like I said, it's caused a massive transformation in my consciousness through repeated, especially repeated experience of it over a period of time. And you get more and more insight into the state the more times that you enter that state. Um, and it just gets you thinking about the nature of all states, like the waking state. Like we are in the waking state right now, we presume. You might be dreaming, so you might want to check to see if you're dreaming. You know, a good reality check at any given time is good. So I'm doing it right now. What about, okay, Francisco says, what about OBE? You're you experienced it before? Yeah. You know what? I've experienced out of body, what they call the out of body experience, OBE or OBE, E, out of body, OBE, E, something like that. No, OOBE, out of body experience. So sometimes there's an extra O at the front, not an extra E at the end. That's why it didn't make sense. But yeah, the out of body experience. It's a way of describing the sensation you have when you are in that state, because you know your body is somewhere else and you're experiencing something, but you know your physical body is elsewhere. And that's essentially the same thing as a lucid dream. And it's just the way that you get into that state determines the name we use for it. So if you accidentally experience the state, if you are having, you know, if you're having, you're awake, right? You're having a waking experience, and somehow you enter into that out of body experience through some sort of trauma, usually is what is described. Then that's kind of an accident that you entered it, and people usually refer to it as an out of body experience if it happens by accident. And I have had that. You know, I've had an out of body experience or two or three by accident as well. Specifically, the first time that I had an out of body experience was when I had been trying intentionally to have one, and in which case it's called an astral projection. That's the term that generally people use, although the more scientific term would be a wake-induced lucid dream, which shortens down to WILD, or W-I-L-D. And the girl that likes roses. Hi, Jeremy. Just popped into the chat. Got home from grocery shopping. Welcome. Yeah, we're celebrating that we've got 4,000 subscribers on this channel. So there's a lot of us. And I was just talking about the various different people that are part of the community here, and was asking what your favorite particular esoteric topic was. And I said mine is lucid dreaming. And that's the term that I use as for every type of out of body experience, as they say. Although I don't think of it as that you're actually leaving your body. You're just not focused on that right now. You're focused on something else. You're focused on a different set of data, you could say. The girl that likes roses says, have you ever heard of hypnopompic? It's interesting too. Yeah. So there's also, I'm not sure, hypnopompic. I'm not sure exactly what you refer to there. I've heard of one called hypnagogic, if that's what you mean. And it's like the colors and the swirling and the images, like basically the same kind of thing you can get by pressing on your eye, by pushing on your eye a little bit, or like rubbing your eye, you know. You get you fall asleep, still no sound. Oh, great. So maybe I'll do like sock puppets or something, like talking to the to the one thing and then talking to the other thing, and then maybe you think that I'm actually got some sort of like actual uh, it's I don't know what's going on. I've got the Okay, so you got the sound back. So I looked, and the microphone wasn't muted, um, but I muted it and then unmuted it anyways to see if it would reset. But and I did that twice, and maybe the second time it worked. I don't know. I checked. I have good signal, but I tried to like pantomime something to you guys in the meantime, anyways, so it wouldn't be so boring. I don't know if the audio is going to end up being on the archive or not. But anyways, we were talking about, I'm not sure what hypnopompic, you said it's when you wake up. Is it like images when you wake up, or the feeling of coming out of a dream into a waking experience, or is it just waking experience? But anyways, yeah, the first time that I had what you would call an out of body experience, which would be like accidentally entering into that state, is usually what people refer to it as, out of body experience, when you do it by accident. I was actually had been trying to do it on purpose, which is called astral projection, but it hadn't been working, and been trying for like a month to intentionally enter that state directly from a waking state, and I hadn't had a lot of success. I'd gotten to points where I was getting body dysmorphia and like buzzing sensations and things like that when I was in that practice, but I couldn't get to that next stage where you actually are in that other state. And I've heard a lot of people say that they get stuck at that as well. And sometimes it's fear, because I think part of the fear is because we keep telling people that you're leaving the body. Your body, you don't leave the body, you're just focusing on something else, It's still there, and you're not, I mean, to say you've left the body, it means that there's something physical, and we're talking about something non-physical, right? Aren't we? Or are we? So I think calling it out of body causes more fear and confusion than necessary. But anyways, I was just trying to relax. I was trying to get to sleep, but I was a little bit worked up. I was a teenager at the time, and I had just come home from a friend's, and I was trying to get some sleep, and I couldn't. So I was like, you know what helps me relax is that practice I was doing to try and astral project. And so I started doing that, and I'm like relaxing, and for some reason I started just like oh no, that was a different time, but I just suddenly found myself in that other state, and I wasn't quite sure what was going on. I was like, oh, what? Wasn't I just lying in bed trying to go to sleep? And then I was standing there, and there was a wall, and it was kind of angled, and it looked like it was covered in like some sort of mirror, but it was imperfect, like maybe like tinfoil or something instead of an actual mirror. And there were two other people to my right, and they were sitting there, and they were looking in the mirror, and I was looking at them through the reflection in the mirror, and I thought that they were me. Not that I thought that I was looking back at my own reflection, but that I thought those other two characters in the dream that I was, or in the out of body experience that I was having, that they were also me in some way. So I wasn't fully lucid. I didn't really realize what was happening at first, but I was like, oh wow, I look really weird through that mirror, and I'm looking at the other person, knowing I'm looking at that other person. I'm saying that other person is me. And then I come out of that state, and I'm like, oh wow, like I guess the practice does work. I did it by accident. Another time I did it by accident was I started to mention it there because I was starting to confuse the two for a second. But another time, I was just relaxing in my bed. It was in the same room, actually, in the same house. And I was relaxing in my bed, and for some reason, I was just doing a visualization exercise. You know, I mean, I did a lot of esoteric practices starting when I was a teenager. I started getting really into it when I was 17. I would do like ceremonial magic and tarot and all kinds of things like that, and including lucid dreaming and astral projection, etc. And so I was just lying in my bed and I was doing a visualization exercise where I was just walking, imagining myself walking around my own room, but from not like a bird's eye view, but like from how I would actually see it if I was actually walking around the room. And I was trying to engage all my senses, like how does the clothes on my body feel, like the weight of it on my shoulders, and the stiffness of my jeans or whatever, if like of the denim, you know, or whatever, you know, and the weight of my feet on the ground, and the you know, the floor pushing back up on my feet, you know, from Newton's law. And then I would pick up like I imagined that there was a piece of chocolate on my dresser, and I picked that up and I would taste it, and I would imagine what it tasted like in the texture of the chocolate in my mouth, and I would smell something, and I knocked on my furniture in my room, and then suddenly I was there in the room, standing in my room, looking around, and I was like, wait a minute, I didn't just stand up. I was just imagining this, and then suddenly I was actually standing there doing it. And I looked around, and one of the first things I did was I looked at the bed, because that was where I thought that I was supposed to be, and I wasn't there. And I went over and I like put my hands down on the bed, and I was like, you know, if my body is here, like I realized pretty quickly that I was having like an astral projection experience. And I was like, this is interesting. Like, I'm having an astral projection experience of the astral version of the room that my body is actually in right now. And so can I feel my body there in some way, you know? And I couldn't. And it was like the bed was just empty. And I looked around and there was a few things different. It wasn't all exactly like the physical version of that room. And then I went off and I had like an experience. Like I went out into the front yard. I left the room and I went down out the front door, and I flew off and I had an adventure. But that was an accident. Like I didn't intentionally. I figured out a method of astral projection is to immerse yourself into a visualization so intensely that it overpowers the sensations coming in from your physical sense organs, which you have muted through relaxing the body and closing your eyes, keeping like having a quiet room, etc., like loose clothing and things like that, things that aren't going to stimulate your physical senses. And eventually they quiet down, and the simulated experiences that you're generating with your imagination become more intense than the ones that your body is receiving through its physical sense organs. And so it shifts. Your point of focus shifts to the more coherent signal, in a sense. Like if you're like I've used the radio analogy before. You're either tuned to the waking experience, which is your physical sense organs, or the dreaming experience. And those are the main two channels you're going to find yourself in. And the dreaming one is not based off of data from your physical sense organs, it's from something else. And so you can generate that signal to the point where it's a more coherent signal than the waking experience signal, and then you shift over. Your channel will go to that one. And that's a method. That's a method that I figured out by accident. And so you could technically call it an out-of-body experience, I guess, because that's usually what people call the ones that are by accident. Oh yeah, okay, so there's been a bunch of discussion here. People talking about their own out-of-body experiences and lucid dreams. That's great. And meeting ghosts. Okay, we got another one here. Do you believe in HAARP? Jeremy, HAARP. Well, yeah, I mean, it's documented. There's a high amplitude aerial research, or wait, no, not aerial, atmospheric, I believe. High amplitude atmospheric research project, I think is what that stands for, something like that. But yeah, like in the north, there is an array of antennas that are used to do experiments with heating up portions of the ionosphere and some things very much like what Nikola Tesla was talking about, like ringing the bell or pushing the swing, where there's a frequency, and if you push it, then you can increase the amplitude of the ionosphere itself, and then later you can draw from it elsewhere, or you could use it to send radio signals or some form of communication, things like that he was exploring the ideas of. And there's this research project that is government run, and it's exploring some of these ideas, and it's called HAARP. And yeah, it's real. I mean, whether it's causing tinnitus on people, I don't believe that part. Yeah, I heard the weirdest thing on the morning of January, a low, really loud, vibrating bass sound. Yeah, that's another thing. There's a phenomenon that happens that people have reported in different places where there's a really weird, like, low bass or even sub bass sound that rumbles, and they can even kind of feel it. And then there's no explanation for it. There's a lot of speculations on the experience of the ringing in the ears, Nish says. Oh, and welcome, Nish. I'm glad that you made it to the live chat. I don't have much time left, actually, but I see you're here and discussing stuff with some people. Yeah, so some people, I believe what you're referring to is some people believe that there's a Mandela shift, maybe like a change in the code or something like that. And everybody go to Nish's YouTube channel and subscribe to her channel as well. I'm part of this. The reason for this live stream today is to celebrate 4,000 subscribers on this channel, and just that there's 4,000 of us that are into this stuff. There's a community, a large community of us, and I really think that's really cool. But yeah, go to Nish's channel. You'll see she's in the live chat here, and she has some really cool content that's very stimulating. And yeah, we have an extended, network because there's other people who are YouTubers that are also part of the subscriber, the 4,000, and they have their own, hubs of people that all interact, and we've got a lot of people that are really thinking, about some interesting things and questioning the narratives and exploring, and like psychonauts, you might call us. The coolest people are occultists, says the girl that likes roses. Okay, Nox Menti is the better channel, Nish is saying. That's the show that Nish hosts. So you could go to that one if you want, and you can also check out her personal channel too if you want. Oh, music that you do, okay. Yeah, check that out. So, it's a really good feeling that there's so many people like us that all have found each other and are interacting and cross-pollinating. We all have our own particular favorite topic. I spent a lot of this video talking about my favorite one, which is altered states. I guess is probably the better term, but I like to say lucid dreaming because that's the form that I usually do the most. So, but yeah, we all have our own various different specialties, and we can teach each other. Girl that likes roses said, "Have you heard of Asna Mason?" Yes, she's involved with the Temple of Ascending Flame, I believe, right? That project. And that's something that I've shouted out on this channel before. I'm not a member, but I've read some of their materials, and I really like the way that they're going about things and how they have kind of a bit of an open source inspired project going with that Temple of Ascending Flame in particular. That's one of the things I like about her work in particular. Francisco says, "Can you meet up again with Michael W. Ford?" You mean like on the channel or in real life? Michael Ford, he's a cool guy. We're friends, and haven't really talked to him a lot lately, but I've been crazy busy, and I'm sure he is too. We're both extremely busy. But yeah, we enjoy each other's company and conversation, and sometimes we do projects together. So I guess, oh yeah, on channel. Yeah, I should talk to him about that. Also, JD from the channel, what is it? From the darkness to the light? Something? No, it's I can't remember it right now, but it's something about darkness and light. And Orly also, she does videos with him as well. They're partners, and they've both got really cool channels. And I'm going to be on a podcast with JD soon. I'm sure. Like we've talked about it a bunch of times, but I just moved, and yeah, JD Temple. That's who I'm talking about exactly. Last time I was in an altered state, I was drinking screwdrivers. That's another way. Like I said, that's what Joe Rogan's favorite way of getting into an altered state is with psychedelics, right? So there are chemical ways of doing it. Oh, from the light to the darkness. Thank you so much, the girl that likes roses. From the light of the darkness. I think it's from the light of the darkness, isn't it? Oh, thank you. Congratulations on the new house, Nish says. Yeah. So I bought a house, moving to a bigger place, and gonna set up some kind of like area where I can do videos with a really cool background instead of usually, I mean, part of the reason I do them in my car is because I can do it on my lunch break at work, where I have like an hour where I can do a couple things and then jump on here for about half an hour or so. And that's why I do them in the car a lot of the times. And it's a place, it's kind of like a sound booth, because you don't get all kinds of external sounds as well. But I'd like to set up an area in the house with like a cool background for you guys so that you don't see like seat belts and brick walls and stuff like that. The car streams are great. It's out of necessity and me finding the time to do these videos that's why I'm doing them in here. So I'm sure they'll continue to be car streams even when I do get a little bit of a studio set up. Can you try to get an ASL interpreter also for the deaf Luciferian community sometime? That would be really cool. That would be really cool. If you want to help me set that up sometime, I would definitely be willing to try that. That would be cool. Yeah, so I don't really have much time to hang out anymore. Like I said, I only get roughly about half an hour to do these sometimes, but I'm really glad that you all showed up, the people who managed to show up. Everybody who's watching this is in the archived version. You know, thank you for being part of this community, and thank you for participating with your comments and your discussions. And this is why I do this. This is why I do it. It's for the community to find people that are like me, you know, in some way, that are iconoclasts, the people that I can learn from, and the people that I can find camaraderie with. You know, that's one of the reasons, the main reason that I do this is to find people like you guys. So thank you so much for being part of this community. And until next time, everybody, you know what I'm going to say? Stay lucid.